So in this demo, we're just going to go over some early stages of development of testing out the new arcade coding component that comes with the SDK. So it gives you that full editor experience that is starting to show up in different parts of ArcGIS Online and other products in that as well. Um, and so not much in there right now uh, in that, except to make this happen. Uh, there was a little bit of pain involved, and that just meant that true learning was happening. So I can run this and I can get this coming back, but these are variables. So what's going on? What's happening? And I can turn off the last results console and any console messages. So let's get in here and actually add some stuff so that you can get a feel for and no. So this is the data that's going to be returned to the user. So I'll go data. That's a bad clipboard thing happening there. What I want to do here is use the console. Where is it? It should be there. Console, there you are. And I just want to do a little get environment. There it is. Now you might notice the IntelliSense is happening. So the little code window that we're in all honesty, is the one that is used in VS Code. And that. And so that's why we have this kind of functionality that we're used to. So when I run this time, let's see what changes with the output. Okay, nothing exactly, because this is more of a debugging statement. But now we can have this actually sent out to a console. And so if we have a bigger script we're working on, we can send messages to the console to try to figure out, hey, well, what's going on, that sort of stuff. Maybe someday we have breakpoints in here. That would be cool. And that. Dream list, wish indeed in that. And this is the logging thing is interesting. We'll see. I'm not sure. It's just messages right now that I can feel, but maybe in the end you can look at maybe a history of different runs, what was ran, what came out, and that kind of stuff to compare. So the thing is, like, where are these variables coming from? These are not stock standard variables that you would see in any USARI profile, and that's fine. But that was the first thing. Well, how do I make these things show up? If I want to pre-feed this with some data, and so once I get something small working, I can go for something big like a feature set, do a fetch, get the feature set, and stuff it in here and use that for calculating a new feature set for doing data shaping and that, or what I call micro ETL in that. And so I can get a list of the variables that are there, and they can get some descriptions about what the variables mean. And that I can get a list of functions. There was some pain involved here. And that. And so if I go, feature set by portal ID, my favorite. So I have the portal functions. So I could go grab a feature set, would be like a feature layer from ArcGIS Online, and use that as some base data to come into the program and that sort of thing. Or I can set up something like a feature with some column names to do some testing in that, and even add text areas where people could drop stuff in that I could use for a variable to test against in that. The next thing that I would like to work on are suggestions, but I don't want to overwhelm the demo. The big thing was, can you actually do this? Yep. And where are the pain points? So the pain points is just, how do you make the environment aware of, hey, I have these variables I want to have in this profile. Also, how do I say what bundles I want? So I got into a naming convention issue there, and so we'll go over it. So and I had a little problem with the unstyled content, that this title would come in first. I would see it with vintage 1995 default fonts, and then I think the Avner, if I'm saying that correctly, font would be applied, but I would see it change in that. So let's jump into the code just for fun to see this. We're going to talk about some topics that we're going to be discussing in more detail in future modules in the course, but let's just get in there and take a look at the HTML. So this, what do we have here? VS Code. So so these code windows that were in here, these ones, is the same code window back in Arcade. Just so you know. In that. So I have a head, not much there, right? Just the name of the tab. So let's see if we can collapse it. There it is. So really what we have in the HTML is a body tag. We have calcite shell tag. We'll talk about the shell in the future in that. Um, I have an H1 tag, which I put into the header slot of the calcite shell. In that, might want to do some padding on that, but we'll see. In that, and then in the default slot of the shell, I have the arcade editor. Part of what I shoot over is that just that sort of stub or script stub for testing in that. Because what I mean, that's just to give you a starting point, because you can just go in there, type stuff, or copy paste some code in, and then test against it. And then some of the magic, right? And that magic was derived through some pain, is done in main.js. So let's go over here. Okay, so import to styles, we've seen that. Or we will see that, depends where we are in the course. In that we might still be in the COTS section of the course, where we're just pulling stuff off the shelf, trying to get stuff to work. In that, but we have this thing I call shadow imports that are going to happen. These are imports that we do because we're writing in the local ECMAScript module fashion. And so VS Code says, you know, technically I don't see you using shell anywhere, but that's because we're using it over here. And I'll do a little short where I'll mention, hey, don't mix the CDN with the ESM, because that was a lot of pain, and that was lesson learned on that one. In that, so they'll look muted, like, because VS Code says I really don't feel you're using shell, but we are. And that now we do have an import here, right? And that, and so here we have an import. It's got the regular, I guess, effect in terms of brightness and that, because it did see in code where we used this component, so it's a little happier in that. Classic, hey, use query selector to go to hook into the DOM, right? Going to hook into the shell. One thing is to, hey, let's wait for the document to be ready before we show the shell, because I was having a little flash of unstyled content happening in that. And then I'll also hook into that arcade editor. And I need to hook into the arcade editor because I need to set, hey, what are the variables? What are the functions that I want? And in the future, what suggestions do I want there? Yes, and these are the listeners. So this is where I was getting what's called FOOCT, flash of unstyled content. And so I'm waiting for the document's ready state change event to basically get to a level of what is called complete. And when it's complete, well, that the shell that's hidden, I will then make visible. But by that time, it'll have its cascading style sheets, and I should be happy in that. So it's a little bit of, like I said, a little bit of pain. That was a tiny bit of pain. There wasn't a lot of pain there, but there was a tiny bit that was very annoying in that. These are some classic hooks that they show in the document that writes things out to the console. This script change event happens every time you type. It fires off a lot of times, just so you know. Right, as you're typing, it's firing off because you're changing the script. It's basically running the script in the background and sending that answer to the regular JavaScript developer tools console in Firefox and Chrome. And then have I really, although I put it in because it was in the demo, I still don't feel like I understand what's going on with this one, but that'll come, right? This is like really early stages in that. Now, this is the thing. Here's some pain. Whoa, in that. When you do the bundles, right? Some of them are a single word, some of them are multiple words. So at first I thought, well, maybe because I'm in JavaScript, maybe they want these in camel case, and so the portal functions I want weren't showing up in that, and so they use what's called kebab case here to set these. Okay, so that actually something as simple as that, a lot of pain, just so you know, in that. So where you see a function bundle in Arcade, in that. So do I have an Arcade playground? I might open up a new tab, ArcGIS, and we will go playground. Well, it's remembered I've been there today in that, and then we'll get into the function reference and that. And so when you're doing, this is the full thing. Do they have function bundles is how you bring them in. So my thing was that, it's not capital C core. That'll cause you problem. It's got to be lowercase core. So kebab case is usually everything lowercase, words separated by a hyphen. in that. And so data access becomes small d data access with a hyphen in between. So that's the part that was just, chewing up way too much time. But, you know, now we know. Oh, and then the other magic is these are the variables. Give it a name. So it doesn't really have to have the $sign, but that's convention, so I'm going to follow it. You get a description. That's nice. That shows up in the GUI. That tells the user, hey, that's what this is about. And this was the thing that really burned a bunch of time. In the demo online, they use something called description, and maybe you can throw an object in there, and by looking at the type on the inside the object, it figures out what it is. But if you're just doing like a raw number or raw text, in that you have to follow data types, and these first, are these JavaScript data types? No, these are arcade data types in that. Um, and and so and so there's two things to, oh, it's more than two things, but to make a profile, you need what function bundles do you want? What variables do you want to predefine as globals inside your, I guess, environment? And then from there, it can return a result to you in that. And this is me setting the values ahead of time. Hey, department is equal to GST, course short name 8010, long name GS programming 2. And then this is me setting the test data on the component, which basically defines, this part really defines what your profile is. The profile is what globals, what constants, what functions there, and also your working spatial reference. Now, 4326 for what I was doing, that's fine, but in all honesty, I mean, for accuracy, if your city of Burnaby, do you want that to be 26910 UTM zone 10 or something like that? Just make sure all your data that's coming is also in that same spatial reference. And that I don't think they project on the fly when they're doing that, but usually the geometry functions across the SDK operators and that typically need the geometry to be in the, or it assumes the geometry is in the same system reference as it does the calculations for buffers, and is this inside or does this contains in that. And so that sets up my environment. Now a little bit of, I try to wrap some of this up. So if I put this demo out on the J drive for you, I will, these are the magic. So this was, again, how did I find this? Just tracking down errors in the console and, using developer tools to click on the function that was having a problem. And I found the switch statement, and I looked in there and it says, okay, it's trying to figure out what the type is. I didn't set type anywhere. That's why I went back and said, well, maybe if I set type to one of these known types, things will magically start working. And it did. And that. So number, text, Boolean, again, date only, time, geometry, knowledge graph. When I saw knowledge graph, I said, okay, this is definitely arcade data types in that. Feature set, feature collection in that, and dictionary and array. And so there's this function here that checks the type of your profile variables to make sure they actually line up with ones that it's aware of in that. And then this is the sort of the back-end hooks where we're setting up, hey, these are the variables that I want. I separate this into two different code areas. And these are the bundles. And there's that, again, there's that keybob naming convention. And that is all lowercase, words separated by a single hyphen. Okay. And so it took me a while to get data access and portal access to actually pop the right function names or make them available to my environment. But, once you go through that, you write it down, and I will probably have to put this title above the other one. Let's do that right now. So just so you know, never hurts to know. VS Code has no problems editing Markdown files, and it will even let you preview them through the previewer, so you know what they look like in that. And I got autosave on, so I should be good to go in that. So again, this was just very early beginnings of trying to integrate this component in that. Yes, indeed, and that it is sort of running because it refreshed it. It took out my console log stuff in that. Again, this would be like I would like to add a few things to this page. Definitely, having a stock feature set ready to go or the ability to maybe even put in an ID and we go pull it live and you can start reshaping it and that sort of thing. Um, but again, just wanted to show you how you could integrate these new components to build your own testing environment if you have something very specific you want to work on in that. But this concludes this demo.